All right, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started here. I'm Camille Fountain. I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 TxDOT Highway Safety Improvement Call for Projects informational meeting. We're hoping you get some valuable information this morning pertaining to the HSIP call. We have TxDOT staff from both districts on the meeting this morning to go over the call and answer any questions you might have. Just a couple of housekeeping items just to let you know this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the COGS Statewide Safety Initiative's website for viewing after the meeting. You are muted upon entering, and we just ask that if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question that you please type it into the chat box and the presenters will be notified, and then there'll be a time for Q&A to go over questions at the conclusion of the presentation. We also ask that you enter your name and city or agency into the chat for attendance and record keeping. And with that, I'll go ahead and do TxDOT presenter introductions at this time so you know who all will be presenting and going over the call information. So again, I'm Camille Fountain, and TxDOT, if you could just unmute yourself and introduce, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Sure, this is Brandy Bush. I am the District Transportation Operations Engineer for Dallas.
Hi, I am Paula Meyer from TxDOT Fort Worth District. I am the Special Projects Coordinator.
Okay, that's everyone. We'll go ahead and jump right into the agenda. I'll let Paula, sorry about that. I'll let Brandy Bush with the Dallas District open with an introduction to the call. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Brandy.
Okay. Thank you, Camille. I also want to introduce Bahman Afshin. He is on the call from the Dallas District as well. So he'll be available for questions after all this. All right, well, good morning, everybody, again, and welcome. I'm glad you made it to our joint informational meeting. This is for the 2021 HSIP program call that is in full swing right now. For this meeting today, we just wanted to provide an opportunity to explain a bit about the program for those who might be new to the process and just give you a chance to ask questions if anything is not clear. So just a little bit of background. HSIP is the Highway Safety Improvement Plan. It's a federally funded but state administered program plan set up with the goal to reduce fatalities and serious injuries on all of our public roads. All of them. So that includes on-system as well as off-system roadways. So anyway, for this call, you would submit a package of required information explaining the project or projects that you'd like to get funded. We'd receive those at your respective district and we review them and submit them on your behalf to Traffic Safety Division in Austin. So keep in mind that the projects you propose need to have a data-driven approach with safety at the forefront. So typically we get a lot of traffic signal submittals for HSIP projects, and that's fine. I wanted to point out that that is not the only countermeasure that we will use for this program. There's a whole host of approved countermeasures included in the guidance document on our website that I hope everybody got a chance to review before coming in today. I want to stress that our goal at the districts is to have increased coordination with our local partners. We want to meet with you. You can call us. We want to provide the information and the assistance that you need to walk through this process. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Contacts will be provided after this meeting to ensure you have what you need. And with that, I will turn it over to Paula, Fort Worth District, to go over the presentation slides, and we'll open it up for Q&A at the end.
Thank you, Brandy. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me. This is a very brief presentation about HSIP, so we'll go ahead and get started. I just wanted to mention that HSIP is based on emphasis areas from the Texas Strategic Highway Safety Plan, and it covers the distracted driving, impaired driving, intersection safety, older road users, pedestrian safety, roadway and lane departures. And there is also a new HSIP guidance document that I believe was included in the invite to this meeting. So everyone should have a copy. If you don't, reach out to us and we will get you a packet. Included in the new guidance, there are a few new work codes. Those are going to be included on page 19, Appendix B in the guidance document. We're going to take into consideration targeted and systemic project types this year. We're going to discuss GMatch, and we are focusing on FY 2025 this year. So next slide, please. There are two types of projects. That would be targeted projects and systemic projects. Excuse me. Targeted projects are select based on crash history. That's going to be your fatal, incapacitating, and non-incapacitating crashes. Traffic volumes, roadway geometrics are also considered. For targeted projects, an SII or Safety Improvement Index score is used as a guide to rank projects. In most cases, we're looking at projects that have an SII above 1. Based on previous calls, we would like to look at projects with a SII in the double digits. The crash costs this year have gone up a little bit. It's $3.7 million for your fatal crashes and suspected serious injuries or incapacitating, and $520,000 for non-incapacitating crashes. Those dollar amounts play into your SII improvement score. So the next type of project is your systemic project, which there is a systemic approach involves widely implementing improvements based on high-risk roadway features correlated with specific severe crash types. This approach provides a more comprehensive method for safety planning and implementation, and it is an approach that broadens traffic safety efforts by considering risk and crash history when identifying where to make low-cost safety improvements. Again, systemic projects are going to focus on intersections, roadway, lane departure, and pedestrians. In the guidelines, which you'll find on page 5 and 6, there's a list of the approved systemic countermeasures. I just want to briefly go over some of those. Unfortunately, I don't have a slide. But for intersections, some of the new things are closed median openings or crossovers, rural intersection improvements, and continuous left turn lanes. For roadway lane departure, one of the new items is segment roadway lighting, but that also covers median barrier, roadway widening, and enhanced delineation on curves. And for pedestrians, it covers uncontrolled crossing locations, median and crossing islands in urban and suburban areas. The new items are safety lighting at urban intersections and installation of attachments to existing concrete median barrier systems to deter crossings on divided highways. Now on the systemic projects, these are not location specific. In other words, for just one location, this is going to be more for a corridor or a segment of roadway. Single locations are not approved and maintenance upgrades are not approved. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about the SII Safety Improvement Index score. This goes back to your targeted projects where you are having crashes, and it takes into account the cost of crashes, crash reduction factors, the construction costs, maintenance costs, service life, and traffic volumes. And I just entered a snippet of what the SII calculator looks like. The gray areas you will fill in with your number of fatals, incapacitating, non-incapacitating. reduction factors, service life, construction, annual maintenance cost, and your ADT. Once you fill that in, it'll give you an SII calculation. Again, anything over 1, we will take into consideration. The new form here asks for the crash IDs to the right, where you'll put the number of K, A, and B crashes. But for off-system projects, sometimes it's hard to get a calculation. So it is optional for the localities to calculate. We do ask that you use the spreadsheet if you can. If you don't have enough information, it's okay to leave it blank. Traffic Safety Division, they're able to calculate those SII scores for off-system projects for us. Now back to systemic, SII calculations and crash data is not required for those projects. Next slide, please. So the HSIP documents that are new this year are located on the TxDOT website. We will have a link later in this presentation, and the guidance and program information is all in one document. One thing that may be missing is the HSIP project submittal form. I believe it was added to this invite, so if for whatever reason you didn't get it, please ask us and we'll get it over to you as soon as possible. That's what we use to review the projects. Now going on to the work codes. Work codes is basically your countermeasure that you're going to want to look at to submit your project. There were some work codes added and one work code removed. 105 for install overhead flashing beacons is no longer an option. But work codes added, we now have code 144 for install rectangular rapid flashing beacon, and that is for a systemic project only. 144, install flashing or LED embedded stop signs for targeted or systemic. Code 225 for pedestrian crossing deterrent, that's systemic only. And code 550 for restricted crossing U-turn. I did want to mention on the work codes, there are 5 categories of work codes. Each category covers a certain type of countermeasure. For example, codes, all the codes under the 100 category would cover flashing beacons, signals, things of that type. There is also combo codes. So if you have a project that has several different countermeasures, you want to look at those combo codes and work off the combo code portion of the guidelines. If by chance you go into those combo codes and you cannot find the combo code that you need, we can request it, but we would like to do that before the project is submitted. That gives TRF the opportunity to get that for us. And also with your work codes, you will have the reduction factor and service life, which we'll need. So the average bid prices, you're going to use your district averages rather than statewide. Next slide, please. And now we'll talk about the budget and the funding. The funding coverage for HSIP only covers construction costs. It does not cover your PS&E preparation costs, your right-of-way, or your utilities. And the federal funding covers 90%, where local governments match the 10% of the project cost. Local governments are responsible for all costs after federal funding has reached its maximum programmed amount. Now, the exciting part, I'm really excited about this, the increased federal share or GMatch, that gives us the possibility of receiving 100% federal funding for construction dollars. Now, those projects, those still must conform to the HSIP guidelines, And there's a list of potentially eligible projects, which can include traffic control signalization, traffic circles, roundabouts, pavement markings, installation of traffic signs, traffic lights, guardrails, impact attenuators, or concrete barrier end treatments. We do not know the criteria for how those projects are chosen, but just so you know that there is that possibility that your off-system project could receive 100% federal funding. Next slide, please. So here's our budget this year for 2025. Dallas District has 6.2 million. Fort Worth, we have 2.6 million. This is the budget for the off-system, targeted or systemic. And the breakdown of funding is shown below. The district targeted is 50%, with district systemic 10%, state systemic is 15%, and district off-system is 20, oops, I'm doing that backwards, I'm sorry, 10%. District systemic is 25%. Next slide, please. So in review, there are dedicated funding allocations for off-system and systemic projects. We do have a budget that we follow. The projects compete on a district level instead of statewide. I'm not so sure that I would say that's a competition. That's more of what we have in our budget. And a reminder about targeted locations must have crash history. Off-system projects must be let by TxDOT's competitive bid process, and they are not eligible for local letting. All project proposals will be submitted through the local area office or district office, and we ask that you work with the area office that services your city. I'm making a list of contacts, the area engineers' names, and the area office HSIP coordinator. We ask that you work with the area office, or at least have a conversation with them regarding projects that you plan to submit. And that gives them the opportunity to look and make sure that there are no overlapping projects, and to make sure that we're all on the same page, and you know, they'll work out the details with you as far as design and any other items that come up. Next slide, please. So when you submit your project, what is required is the HSIP form. That is the submittal application, basically. And there's a little verbiage in there to save a copy. At the bottom of the form, it'll say save a copy. And that's just to make sure that in transit, we don't lose any information. The location map is needed. Google Maps satellite view will work. A detailed estimate, the existing and proposed typical sections, if applicable, the intersection layouts, if applicable, traffic signal warrant forms, if applicable. If you are submitting a traffic signal project, that does, it does need to meet warrants, and that will need to be included in the packet. We are also requiring a schedule, and that is to show your milestones and to kind of help us keep track and make sure that we are going to meet the letting date. There are occasions when other supporting documents are needed, and we will request that as needed. Next slide, please. So kind of back to the estimates, we want to make sure that all work is accounted for on your estimate, and TxDOT uses the estimate to compare to the PS&E. And only work types programmed can be part of safety project. That goes back to your work codes. Again, use the district average bid prices. And then on to letting. the projects must let in the fiscal year chosen. This year, we're focusing on FY25. On the submittal form in the past, we just asked for a year, but now we need a month included. So if you'll include that month and year. We want to make sure utilities and right of way are clear. I also want to add to that, we want to look at the environmental, if environmental is included or needs to be looked at for that. Those are some of the things that could kind of hold us back and make us miss our letting date. Next slide, please. So our submittals are due November 17th. That would be to us. That would be to the district offices. If you'll submit those to the district point of contacts, the Dallas district, they set up a special email for those projects to go to. And for Fort Worth, those would come to me. There's my email and phone number. The submittal to Austin or TRF is going to be December 17th, 2021. And the approved projects will be confirmed by March 1st, 2022. Next slide, please. The resources, the website where you can find these documents, the guidance document, the submission form, and the SII calculator. And then you also have the link to the Texas Strategic Highway Safety Plan. And there's a snippet of what that page looks like and the format to download those items. Next slide, please. The contacts for Dallas District are Brandy Bush and Bauman Afshin. For Fort Worth District, myself, Paula Meyer, and Corinne Adkins. And that's all I have for you. Any questions? Next slide, please.
Just a couple in the chat. The first one from Brian Chusky with the City of Plano. Do y'all have the SII numbers for selected past projects?
Okay, so I can't see the chat right now, but just to clarify the question, you mean you want to see all of the numbers from all the past projects that we had submitted before?
Well, just the ones that have been selected to see if we're in the ballpark as far as the past projects with the number up with.
Well, I'm not sure if I have those available, but that's not, I don't want this to look like, it's not like a competition where we're, you know, it really just depends on the types of projects that we get this time. So it wouldn't be based on previous numbers. Like if we had a bunch that were really high this time, I mean, that number could change. Does that make sense?
What I'm trying to find is to define what's considered really high. If the lowest number, I'll just pick a number. I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say the last lowest number was 25 and all of our projects are in the 10 range, then we probably wouldn't go through the process of putting together all the documents to submit. But I'm just trying to figure out if we're in the ballpark or not.
I would go ahead and submit those. You know, whether they are, you know, 10, 12, 25, it's not going to hurt to submit those.
Agreed.
Looks like Kurt Hauser put a comment out there that this information's been provided in the past. But that's fine. Whatever y'all want to do.
Hey, this is Heather. Can I
Absolutely
address this? Okay. My name is Heather Lott. For those of you who don't know who I work for TxDOT. I work in the Traffic Safety Division, and I am the Traffic Engineering Section Director. So I oversee the HSIP program on a statewide level. And I wanted to just address this SII because this is something that we have been moving towards in the HSIP program to make these significant changes and kind of change the thought process here. The SII in the past was always used as a competitive nature, and that's what the SII is there for, is to compare projects to other projects. When it comes to safety and addressing our addressing fatalities and getting to a point where we are at zero by the year 2050, what we're encouraging all of you to do is to look at your safety data. And that means from a targeted perspective, where are your hotspots? And what sort of things can you do and what sort of projects could you do to help reduce those fatalities in those areas? When it comes to the systemic side of the approach, and we do not have an SII required for that, is because that is looking at your risk levels. So, you know, within your city or your county or on your government or your agency roadways, you're looking at what are your risk areas? Are those run off the road? Are they intersection related crashes? And putting projects together that address those types of situations. So we're really looking for, you know, you to submit those projects that do address your highest level of concerns within the safety side of things in your jurisdiction. The SII is right now, we're required to have a cost benefit. That's what we've got right now. It's been in place for a long time in those calculators. That may phase out in the future, but what we're looking for is anything above a 1.0 that is showing that there is a benefit there. It's not necessarily meaning to be, you know, the highest number SII will be selected. We've moved away from that competitive process. What we're looking for is for some sort of discussion and looking into what will address the fatalities and the serious injuries in your jurisdiction. So I hope that helps explain that a little bit. I'm happy to answer any questions if there's any beyond that. So.
Hello, this is Shannon with City Fort Worth. I just have a couple questions on behalf of some staff that are not here today. One question we have is, for doing design, is there any issue with us doing in-house design that we would then submit to TxDOT during with the approved project?
I mean, this is Brandy, but there shouldn't be a problem with that at all.
Okay. And one other question is, so from one of the work codes, you have install pavement marking. The pavement marking, the question is, it says it has to be like a new marking or something. But the question is, say the markings are faded, like you can no longer see them at all. And that's what's leading to the crashes. Is that an eligible thing?
That is a good question. Heather, are you?
I can answer that. That would not be an eligible item. That's considered a maintenance issue and keeping up and maintaining those items out there.
Okay, but if it's a conversion to from 4-lane to 3-lane, that is eligible, correct?
That is eligible, correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, another question from the chat from Asthma at the City of Allen. Are previous approved completed HSIP locations eligible to apply?
Okay, so the location is already approved and you want to submit again, or will you be adding scope or what?
And Asthma, you can unmute to answer. She may have stepped away, so I'm not sure.
Was that for me? I couldn't make that out. What was the question?
Yeah, it said, are previous approved completed HSIP locations eligible to apply?
Our previous eligible locations.
Yeah, it said previous approved completed location.
Completed. So if there's already been an HSIP project that has been constructed there, are those eligible for additional countermeasures? If that's the case, then yes, possibly. I mean, it really kind of all depends on what the project is that's being submitted. If it, there is a service life with HSIP dollars that we're required to meet with Federal Highway. So we might be looking at just the details and specifics of that type of countermeasures that have either already been in place or are going to remove and put something else in. So I hope that helps, but I think that is going to be really a specific question that needs to be looked at the details.
Okay, thanks. Another one, what is the, from Daniel Burnham with the City of Arlington, what's the budget for the Fort Worth district again?
For off system, that was 2.9, 2.6, I'm sorry.
All right, another one from Asthma, City of Ellen. Can we apply for a bunch of locations for targeted approach from one agency? If one of them has a low SII, does it decrease the chance of getting the funding for the whole package? Or is each location looked at individually?
Each location would be looked at individually if it is based on targeted and targeted crashes.
All right, from Joe Atwood, I heard of an off-system budget. Is there an on-system budget?
There is. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's okay. There is an on-system budget. Yes, we do have that for our districts.
Okay, and then I skipped one from Fabrice. Will you please send this presentation to everyone? Yes, we can send out a copy to the group. And then another follow-up from Asthma. Do we need to separate the on-system and off-system locations?
Yes.
Okay, another one from Jennifer Butcher. If we have a shovel-ready project and there are HSIP if we have a shovel-ready project and there are HSIP funds on a project where they didn't meet design schedule, can the shovel-ready projects get the unused funds?
If I were to answer that on a statewide basis, I would say make sure that you are working with your district contact to let them know when you have a project that is, let's say, scheduled for fiscal 25, and you know that you could be ready to let that project in fiscal 23, because if there are funds that are still available to be used in the off-system category within that district, then it's very possible that the district may be able to accelerate your project.
And then another one, I wanted to confirm that this project call is for projects if approved to let and begin construction in fiscal year 25.
Yes.
All right, and I think that's all the questions. Looking over to make sure if anyone doesn't have access to the chat though, you can unmute and ask your question. Sonia asked, is anyone on the call from the city of Richardson? Is there anyone on here from Richardson?
Camille, yesterday when we talked with Rama, he had a question about the crash data and how that would be looked
right. Yeah, he was saying he wasn't able to access the crash data, or if he wasn't sure if that was the agency responsibility or the same as in previous years. So that was a question he had.
Tiffany Hernandez is on the call from Richardson, so maybe she can provide some extra to that question if she's aware of Rama's concern.
We can get you the off-system CAVS data if that's what he meant.
district, and we never had access to that CRIS data. We had to reach out to other agencies to get access to the CRIS data that's supposed to be provided for HSIP.
Okay, we can get you access to the off-system data that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it doesn't look like I missed any other questions. So again, if anyone had any others, you can unmute. If not, again, I'll send the presentation out to the group so that you can all reference it. And with that, we'll go ahead and close. We ended a little early, so I'll give you some of your time back. So thank you all for joining. Thanks, TxDOT, for presenting. All right, thanks everyone.
Very welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.